start cutting our fabric. A couple things before we start cutting. When we talk about width of fabric, a typical or a standard in the industry assumed width of fabric is 42 inches. Kona solids happens to be about 44 inches. And when we talk about the 42 or the 44, it's all about the usable fabric between the selvage on this side and the selvage on that side. When a pattern assumes 42 inches width of fabric, it's about the usable fabric. So you want to be careful to look at both sides of the fabric and understand how much you have as usable, but it should be at minimum 42 inches. The next thing is that I can't cut one single 44-inch strip. First of all, my cutting mat is only 36 and my ruler is only 24. Here's how we do it. We simply fold it in half, selvage to selvage. So let's fold it in half. Now, Kona doesn't have a right or wrong side. Some fabrics do, especially printed fabrics, if you were choosing printed fabrics. So I would put the right sides together so that you have the wrong side on the outside. So inside pretty part, outside back. First thing we're going to do is more or less line up the selvage sides. I've reoriented the fabric, so I hope I didn't confuse you there, but we've got our selvage edges here, more or less lined up along here. We've got a nice fold here. You can notice that this is a raggedy kind of cut here. And that's because when they're pulling the yardage off the bolt, they're just using scissors, fabric scissors, to cut that off the bolt. They're always adding a little bit of extra for this very reason. You don't have to worry that you're going to run out of fabric in this next step, but we want to create a really nice edge here. Then we're going to start cutting this way and measuring from the bottom. So we certainly want this one, this strip here, to be very, very straight. So here's how we're going to do that. I should also mention that I use the grid lines loosely here, but you're actually going to use your ruler for actual measuring. And that'll make sense as I'm going through it. So you can see that my ruler is 24 inches. So because I folded this in half, it's a little bit shorter than the ruler, which is great because then I can get it set up and I can cut. We're trying to cut here so that we catch all of the raggedy parts here. So I kind of look and I say, oh, okay, I got to go up a little farther to catch, so that I end up with a completely straight line through both folds. I picked a line on my ruler, not the grid now, and I've picked a line on my ruler and put it up against that fold as accurately as I can. So now I know that I've got this straight, and because the ruler is a ruler, it's going to give me a perfect 90-degree cut there. And that looks good. Now I'm going to peek and make sure that I'm catching all the parts of what I call the raggedy edge. Unlock my rotary cutter. I'm going to put pressure here. I'm going to put it right up against the ruler and try to keep pressure going along the ruler. You don't have to don't use every muscle in your body, but you're trying to keep a straight edge there. And I'm just going to, boom, and there you go. So as you can see, I now have this perfectly straight edge, and I know that it's straight because I used this angle to cut that angle. I love an assembly line approach to each step of making a quilt. Let's just get this out of the way. And so what I like to do is we've got our width of fabric this way, fold it over, nice straight edge. And I like to do all of my width of fabric strip cutting. And you'll see this in the pattern. It is the bolded sections. It is not the subcutting. I like to just get all my width of fabric strips, all the various strips across all my fabrics cut. Then I come back and I do all of the subcutting. You certainly don't have to do that. But I find that once I'm in the zone of something, like okay, width of fabric, and I'm just going up different measurements of length based on the pattern, that I just kind of want my brain to keep doing that. Then I want to get my brain into subcutting, and I do all of that at once. I've just flipped this way. Now I have my perfectly straight edge here, and the pieces are together here, and that's because I'm right-handed and I want to cut this way. If you look at the first bold line in the pattern, it says to cut 7 3-inch by width of fabric strips. So we've got our width of fabric this way, and we want to measure 3 inches this way and create a perfectly straight cut. So I'm going to take my ruler and I am going to line it up this way, 1, 2, 3 inches. So this is the line that's 3 inches in. And I'm going to line it up with this straight edge I created. And when you do that, not only do you see that the line we created is straight, because I've got this marking here for 3 inches in, 1, 2, 3, that's perfectly straight along that straight edge. And you can even check yourself, because there'll be lines going this way as well, and they look really straight to that folded edge. So I'm ready to cut. So I'm going to take my rotary cutter, unlock it. I'm pressing down here with some weight. I'm going to go like that. And we have our first strip, 3 inches by the width of the whole fabric. And so it says to cut 7 of them. So I'll do that now. Now I've got my 7. I just sort of fold this over as I'm working my way through the yardage. So the second grouping of width of fabric strips on the pattern in bold says to cut 3 4 1/4 high strips from the width of the fabric. Okay, I've got my 3 4 1/4 inch wide. Put those up here. And I've got my 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Got my 7 3-inch by width of fabric strips. Whoopsie, how did that get off? Here's a good teachable moment. And now I just need to do one more set. But I'm going to realign my selvage, shake it a little bit, because I notice that my straight line has gotten slightly off. I think I just moved all the fabric. So rather than worry about it, I am going to create another straight line just to set it back on course. I'm going to line up on the fold right there. And I need to move. This is why I like to have a spot where I can move around the table. Okay. Should not do this, but I'm going to cut under my arm here. No. Okay, and then I need, let's see, I go back to the pattern and it says 2 5 1/2 inch width of fabric strips. Line that up here all the way down. I'm going to see that my other lines look pretty straight there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 1/2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 1/2. There is 1. So I've got 2 of the 5 1/2s. I've got 3 of the 4 1/4, and I've got 7 of my 3-inch strips on fabric.